Got all I need life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And as always, each episode is brought to you by All I Need Skate. If you'd like to check out any of our creations, whether it be our skateboard decks, which are manufactured right here in the USA, or our men's and women's apparel line, we also have our nug jars, and we have a video series titled That All I Need Life. You can check it all out at allineedskate.com. Also, quick update. New England Am. This is the biggest amateur contest in the country, I think. I've been to the biggest one, and I think we rival them for sure, and growing. It's November 4th and 5th at the Edge Indoor Skate Park, and we're introducing our ladies division, which I'm really excited for. I've been seeing a lot of girls more than ever skating, which is so cool. Also, our 14 and under division is super heavy always. A lot of people shredding, everyone having fun. It's quite the event, a lot of energy, and people just coming together to put on a show and have fun for the weekend. It's a 2-day event, and we have an after party and live music. It's going to be wild. So the divisions are the Newly Ladies Jam, 14 and under. We also have our 15 and over, which is gnarly. And then last but not least, we have our Skate Shop Invite division, which is gnarly. 3 riders from each shop, and they just battle it down till we end up with top shop. You can check out last 3 years of the contest on our YouTube channel if you head to youtube.com/allineedskate. Also, I got a green screen now, so the video portion of this podcast, if you want to watch a video with it, you can always go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and you'll get updates when I put them up. And I got a green screen now, so we're going to be putting some stuff in the background. We're going to be out in space. We're going to be out there. That's what the kids are saying these days, right? Okay. Anyways, my guest today is Tyler Culbertson. We tried to make this happen a couple weeks back, and our schedules just didn't line up. But he reached back out and hit me up, and I was super hyped because I just knew he had a cool story, and it seemed like he was pretty open too. So he did not disappoint. We talked about everything from let me see, I wrote it all down. His father used to work at Airwalk, and he used to get to see the behind-the-scenes stuff there, which is cool. They owned a skate shop together. He also made his own job at Tumieto, just kind of hustle mentality, which is sick. And also, he is now the social media manager to Tony Robbins, which is trippy, and I got to ask him about Tony a little bit. So, yeah, this one was super fun. I hope you enjoy.
Prosper. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I gotta get on it.
I just love the skating and the scene.
When rain go away, all I need is a skateboard today.
This is the Shetler Show featuring professional skateboarder, podcaster, and All I Need Skate founder, Anthony Shetler.
So it was hot. Everyone was doing it.
Yeah, they're looking for their dad's fucking metal skateboards in the garage.
Yeah, exactly.
Get on this thing.
Each episode brings you amazing discussions with interesting people from all walks of life.
Kind of when skateboarding clicked for me, and you learn some tricks or whatever, and you get that appreciation from your peers, you know? The other skaters are like, holy shit, like, yeah, dude, that's rad.
Admiration.
Yeah, the admiration or the affirmation.
Real, recognized real.
If I didn't experience those crazy moments in my life, then these great moments would never be as great as they have been.
Honestly, for me, I just loved it. I saw those dudes, I saw those videos, and I was like, holy fuck, this is sick.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Let's start it off with, where are you right now?
I'm at work in Sereno Valley, California, which is in San Diego, and just at the office.
Which office? Are you at Tumieto?
No, I'm at Robbins Research International. That's Tony Robbins' company. He started about almost 40 years ago, actually.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was at the Yeto yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, I wanted to take it from the top. Like, let's start with how you found skateboarding and where were you and when you did.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I was very lucky and privileged. I grew up around skateboarding. My dad was actually employee number 3 of Airwalk back in like '86, I believe.
Number 3?
So, yeah, he started it. I remember going to the offices at Airwalk before the brand even launched, just being a little kid running around looking at shoe samples and stuff. And so from the age of 3, I've just been surrounded by skateboarding. At that time, that was all the rage was vert skateboarding. And I grew up in Carlsbad, California. So that was like one of the meccas of skateboarding in terms of the industry. You had a lot of pros living there, and a lot of companies were based out of there. And so yeah, that's where it started. And from there, it just progressed. I literally lived across the street from Carlsbad High School.
Whoa.
So I was super lucky to see tricks go down the Carlsbad Gap growing up, and there's tons of other spots at that school as well. But yeah, I just was super lucky to grow up in an environment where it was skateboarding provided for my family, and also I was kind of smack dab right in the middle of it as well in terms of the industry.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy though. Did you ever get like sample airwalks and like one-offs and shit?
Yeah, a bunch. I was actually, when they launched the kids line, I was in some ads.
Yes.
Just like, I wasn't skating though. It was looking back on it, it's kind of whack because I'm like this little kid, like modeling little kid shoes, but it was super funny. Yeah, ever since I was little, I've just been like, decked head to toe in gear, like just got hooked up, and it's like just an incredible privilege, like it's lucky to be able to have those opportunities and stuff. But yeah, it was fun. I wish I kept some of those samples growing up because they did the craziest colorways that like half the time they never even saw production, but they had this giant wall when you walked into the main office that was like hundreds of pairs of shoes that were just, if you remember the 80s, it was just like the louder the better, and
yeah,
like crazier colorways and whatnot. So just super fun and creative environment to grow up in for sure.
What was your dad doing there? Was he packing boxes or was he part of the creative stuff?
He was on the business end. He was a merchandising manager. So what he would do is he would kind of organize the entire line between the designers and the sales reps. So get feedback from the sales team and then relay that to the designers, and then kind of create like collections. You know how like companies release like a collection of certain things and stuff like that, like colorways that all tie in with like a shoe and t-shirt and hat and little kits and whatnot. So he developed that with Airwalk, and then also oversaw the manufacturing of the product in China.
Sick. Damn, that's cool, man. So you had at a young age, you had like a little peek into the industry, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And he, up until I graduated high school, he was always involved in the skate industry full time. I don't know, do you remember a brand called Jimmy Z?
Yeah. It was a little before my time, but I remember it.
Yeah, so he was a part of that as well at the height. And then after that, he started a manufacturing business. So he actually was making product, him and his company, they were making products for all sorts of skate companies, from like, I can't even remember now, it's been so long, but Element to Volcom when they started, Physics, Giant Distribution, stuff like that. So he'd make wallets and hats and backpacks and so yeah, always around skating.
Did you ever pursue the sponsorship, or how good did you get at skateboarding?
I was terrible, and I'm still terrible. I just I love being around skateboarding. It's my favorite thing in the world, but I think a couple things hindered me growing up skating. One is my size, and two, I'm just super scared. Self-admitted, just scared to flip my board. I've like notoriously kept all four wheels on the ground like the entire time I've been skating.
So you probably haven't had too many bad injuries, though.
No, surprisingly, I've broken my elbow 3 times skating. So I definitely would push myself at times, and then like as the years go on, I'd scale it back. But yeah, always ridden a board and kept it mellow for sure. But got into filming and stuff like that. So I was behind the lens a bunch and just always tried to be around it. I was like one of those guys on the sidelines, just watching everyone rip.
Yeah, which we need those people very much. So can't have it without that, you know.
For sure.
That's rad. So when did you get into actually working for skateboarding? What was your first step? Did you ever work at a skate shop or?
So my dad actually, so we grew up in Carlsbad, and then around 2004, him and my mom moved to Prescott, Arizona, which is a small little mountain town in the middle of AZ. And at the time, I was working for DC in the warehouse. So my whole path, I was like, oh, I'll work for DC and like work in the warehouse and then meet people and try to become a filmer or something like that. And while I was doing that, my dad was planning on retiring, and then he started substitute teaching for fun at high schools just to pass the time. And then kids would find out his background and they're like, holy crap, like you need to open a skate shop. We don't have a skate shop here in town. So he started doing the research and saw that the market was big enough to do one. And so my dad called me literally out of the blue one day. He's like, hey, like this is a little out of the blue, but would you want to run a skate shop with me? And like, you know, for me, I was 23 at the time, and that'd be any skater's dream growing up is to run a skate shop. So that was a dream come true. And I said yes immediately and went out there and started the shop with my dad. And we did the store for about 8 years and then sold it around 2011. But throughout that time, just had just the best times ever of like, you know, it was a small town, but supporting the local skate scene and doing events, making videos, having a shop team, that whole thing. It was like times I look back on, they were just the best times ever, you know, like living the shop life at 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, you know?
Yeah, it's having that experience is awesome because it definitely makes you value, you know, like all the hard work, and it makes you see the community of skateboarding. So if you ever had to work and sell it for whatever reason, then you'll at least know what it's worth, you know?
Yeah, it like really taught me a lot. I mean, so many lessons about business, but then taught me so much about, you know, giving back to skateboarding in a way of, you know, always, I think it's a huge responsibility on skate shop owners to always be giving back to the community or providing opportunities for skaters to be involved in some way, whether it's a local video premiere or putting together a game of skate or some event on Go Skate Day, whatever it might be. It's really on the shoulders of the skate shop to initiate that and really keep that momentum. And it's super fun to, like, in a ways it's a lot like skating. Like there's no guidelines for you to like make your skate scene better. You just gotta like go out and try stuff and trial and error and figure out what works and develop relationships. Like within a year I found myself in like city council meetings and stuff with Parks and Recs departments and the mayor and city planners, and like that's the last place you think you'll find yourself. But then realizing that it's like if you take a strategic approach and work with people that might not understand skateboarding but see there's participation in it, that if you can be the voice for skating in your community and express the needs and desires of what they're looking for, whether that's to have a skate park built or, you know, even build a skate spot or have the city help fund an event or something, it's good to partner with those people instead of, you know, sometimes we've been known to barge and just kind of do it on our own, and that's when you know, the city doesn't really appreciate stuff like that.
Yeah, each case is case by case, you know, like some cities are just as stubborn as the individuals that are trying to get the skate park, but for the most part it's young people doing the skateboarding stuff, and they don't, you know, when you're young you don't always know the approach, so you just go at it, you know. So but I agree, you fucking catch more bees with honey or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future, like 10, 15, 20 years from now, when people from our generation are in positions of power at local governments and nationwide governments, that by that point, either they have ridden a skateboard or they had a friend or family that has ridden a skateboard, and there'll just be a larger understanding around it and the need for it. And I mean, we're already seeing the benefits of that today with the expansion of all the skate parks that are being built, but I think we're only seeing the beginning, and that, it's exciting to see what will come from that.
Yeah, I agree, man. Skateboarding has definitely infected the culture and has stuck around, like people, the only reason it sticks around is because people fall in love with it, and then they do whatever they can to make time to continue to do it, and then people even go above and beyond to build community and start events and take on responsibility financially for something they love, like it's your joy. It's hard if you make the thing you love your business as well, because that's a fine line to walk,
Yeah.
So, but people got to do it, you got to kind of build these things up, because the spark has to be there. It doesn't build itself, So
Right. I'm sure someone said it before, but I always took that the past president JFK and how he said, "Ask not what you can do for your nation, or ask not what your nation can do for you. Ask what you can do for your nation." I've always replaced that for skateboarding. Like, a lot of people look to skateboarding of like, what can skateboarding do for me? But your mindset should be flipped of what can you do for skateboarding, and how can you give back? And then in return, skateboarding always gives back tenfold.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it takes a long time, like people get so excited on skateboarding, and then they want to be sponsored, and they want to be the pro, and they want the shoe, and they want all the lights and the limelight and all that. And it's like, even when you get that, there's still work that comes with it. So it's like,
totally,
you got to take your time, and no one escapes work. So it's like, you should work with your community and your local skate shop before you should build up your own skate community and put the work in that. That way you contribute to skateboarding, you grow your skateboard scene, and people appreciate that, and maybe that, it'll come around, But a lot of people would like, I think a mentality at least existed in skateboarding of kind of like the lottery, like you win it or whatever, but I don't know. I don't think you can really win it. You gotta, maybe one person wins it.
Put the work in.
Yeah, maybe Nigel won it, but even him, he's gnarly as fuck. Like, he's risked his life on his skateboard, so.
Yeah, he's taking a beating.
Yeah, so there's always a cost,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. I feel like that skateboarding, on the whole, understands it now, or is getting it. I like the idea of people of our generation. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, I'm 34, so we're the same age. So, yeah, like you were saying, like, when people in our generation kind of take over and, inherit the earth and take the jobs up and maybe in position of power to, but they'll all be skaters. They'll be sick, like, because everybody skates, right?
Right. That was, I one time when I was giving a talk in a city council meeting in Prescott, I sucked the air out of the room with a comment. I said, "And won't it be great one day when there's as many skate parks as there are softball fields?" Because for some reason, randomly, the softball Hall of Fame is in Arizona, in Prescott, Arizona, and there's literally like a dozen softball fields, and they're empty 9 times out of 10 all the time. And it's like, it's ridiculous, it's just so funny. But they think like, I don't even know what their thought process is about softball or why that's important. That just them fathoming the concept of like, could there really be 12 skate parks in our town one day? Like, that just scared the crap out of them. But for me, like, I don't know, there's a lot of things around. I mean, not necessarily 12 skate parks, but maybe 12 skate spots that are deemed legal to skate, and it's, a safe place where kids can skate and they don't have to worry about getting kicked out or getting a ticket or something.
Yeah. So. It's crazy that they can't see that it's like a good vehicle for development for young people, because you can express yourself. Like, it's very open to all genders and all sex, everything, like we make it a point in skateboarding to try to smash that down and not be into it. So you think people would just see that, and just the practice, I guess you have to do it to understand it. That's the problem, maybe.
Yeah, or at least be exposed to it. One time I did, I've always been like an advocate for skateboarding and try to, just help the other side, or politics or local governments, see the value of skateboarding and all those things you just mentioned, of how it's a great vehicle to express creativity, and there's a zillion benefits to skating. And one time I was in Green Bay, Arizona, and organizing an event with the Green Bay Packers, believe it or not, and the local government. There was a skater that played for the Packers named Al Harris, or a football player named Al Harris who played for the Packers, who actually skated.
Oh, sick.
He ripped. He did proper flat ground 360 flips, and his kid skated, and so he'd be at the skate park all the time. And I lived there for about 6 months, and when I showed up, it was like, on the surface, it looked like the best skate park ever because it was big and, just expansive, tons of concrete and everything. But then you start rolling around, and it was clear that someone who had never stepped foot on a skateboard in their life built this park. So much so that, like, there'd be a pyramid that's in the corner of the skate park with grass on the back of it. So, like, now you can only skate two sides of the pyramid.
Yeah, they didn't even take into consideration that you could skate the whole thing and that you should.
There was a 6 block with 10 feet of run up.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? In the worst of all, and I kid you not, there was this, like, whole big section. It was kind of like just a real mellow bowl. It was like maybe 4 feet, super mellow transition. But then they put curbs down the middle of the transition. So if you were pumping around the corner, you just run right into a wall. Like, it made no sense. So anyways, I was rolling around, and one of my best friends played for the Packers, and he wanted to be involved in the city of, like, giving back and doing some kind of philanthropic work. And I was living with him. I was like, look, man, there's a skate park that needs a ton of help, and they got an awesome skate scene out there. There's a local shop called Surf and Bird, and just a lot of history for Green Bay and skateboarding. And my buddy Brandon Chiller, he grew up around skating. He grew up in Carlsbad as well, and he understood it. And, like, new skaters always had a tough time having spots to skate and whatnot. He's like, I'd be down to host a fundraiser and generate some funds to build a new skate park for these guys. And I'm like, perfect. So I start coordinating with the lawyer or the mayor and Parks and Recs and whatnot. Anyways, long story short, I bring the entire Parks and Recs department to the skate park to show them the deficiencies in the park of, like, why this doesn't make sense. Yeah, it looks cool, but let me show you what happens when you ride a skateboard, how this doesn't work.
Like the physics of it. Like, they don't know the physics because they've never done it.
Yeah. And so we're standing there, and there's like 20 kids there. School had just gotten out, so there's more kids showing up, and, there's adults and just skaters. It's a wide range of characters that are skating the park. And this skate park, like many skate parks in the nation, was featured or placed in a larger park setting. So there's grass fields, there's basketball courts, there's a softball field, there's all that stuff. And it's a huge just park grounds area. And here you have all these people crammed in a skate park, shredding around, having the best time. And we're talking about it, and I said, and the participation level is pretty, like, substantial at this park right now, wouldn't you say? And the Parks and Rec people were all agreeing, like, yeah, this is great. I'm like, what's the participation level at the softball field and basketball court right now? And they didn't even look over. They already knew. They're like, 0. No one was on the basketball court.
The softball field's still just full of ghosts. You're like, nobody.
Yeah, nobody. So these people are finally starting to realize, like, this is what the youth want to participate in. Let's give them the proper facility to do what they're passionate about and where they can thrive in,
Yeah, I like it. I like it too because skateboarding, there's no coaches, Half the reason is because it becomes your work and your practice, and you have a coach, and then it becomes too regimented and too boxed in, and then it's like, that will lower participation, Like, for someone who's more free thinking and wants to just, like, do something at their own pace and at their own level, like, skateboarding is pretty open to that, I think.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this tripped me out because you're talking about, like, NFL players, and you work with Tony Robbins and stuff. Do you feel like you're in a bubble? Like, do you feel like you're surrounded by famous people? Because these are some famous people.
I'm really lucky and super privileged to work with some great people. I made, like, the comment to my wife the other day. I was literally working like had projects in the mix with like 7 best-selling authors at the same exact time. Like I never would have thought. I worked at Tomieto for 5 years and then had this amazing job opportunity come work for Tony Robbins, and through working with him, just have been exposed to tons of really just brilliant people and super successful people. So it's not like I'm hanging out with celebrities all the time or by any means, but I've definitely, had the opportunity to work with some pretty high level people, whether it's business owners, athletes, authors, things of that nature.
Yeah. I was wondering if it felt that way, though. Does it feel like you're hanging out with famous people? From like an out, because you're from the skateboard world. I know famous people in skateboarding are like celebrities to me. Like when I saw Heath Kirchart, I was like fucking dumbstruck. I didn't even recognize him because I'm just used to him posing the front board or something, But I'm still in awe. And like Tony Hawk is like a celebrity that I've met.
Yeah.
But it seems like you've been around him. So does it feel like? How's the air?
It's good. I mean, I love it. It keeps me on my toes. It makes me want to rise, because I've never been like a goal of mine was never to be a pro athlete or anything, because I was never skilled in that area or be a musician or something like that. So I guess I just find myself in these scenarios now where I gotta, be on my best and try to perform the best. But I agree, like with skating, working for Toy Machine, I found myself working with my childhood hero, and I'm collaborating on the regular with Ed Templeton. Like I still get starstruck around that dude, and like he was my boss. But that's like the best thing ever. I've looked up to Ed since I was like in the 6th grade, and then fast forward 20 plus years, and I'm working day to day with the dude. So it doesn't, like, I don't take it for granted by any means. And what's funny is I can't recall like really getting super starstruck. I've lived in Los Angeles and been exposed to all that stuff in terms of like, actors and musicians and whatnot. What I find is I still get super excited when I see my favorite skaters. Like that too, I think for me is what gets me really excited, and I guess starstruck in a way, like, seeing and hanging out with people like Brian Herman or something, like, that just is the best, and like, I mean, there's a whole language around skateboarding and skateboarders where you just have this commonality and can communicate easily and know each other really quick. Like we could, talk about Heath Kirchart's minefield part for probably an hour. Like
for sure.
Hardly anyone would understand what we were saying, but we knew exactly what we're talking about and why we're excited about, or just in awe of that backside flip he got towed in on and did over the street gap or something. Like, I don't know, I just find myself more starstruck with skateboarding, I guess, than anything else.
Yeah. How are Tony Robbins, like, he has like legitimate fans? That man fills up arenas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are their fans? He must have people that are in awestruck of him. I can imagine.
Yeah, he's, that man's on another level for sure. He's just a gift to so many people's lives, and millions of people look up to him. I don't know the stats of how many people lives he's changed, but it's in the millions for sure. I'm his social media manager, so I see it every day when I'm monitoring comments and stuff of just the positive outflow of people just expressing how much he's either changed their lives or set them on the course of how they're going to improve themselves, and whether it's their weight or their, physical fitness or their business or their relationship, their finances, all these things he helps so many people with. So it's a trip. I mean, he has, I think, 3 million fans on Twitter, 3 million fans on Facebook, 2 million fans on Instagram, the list goes on and on. So yeah, it's a trip to see how big an impact he has on so many people's lives. It's amazing.
That's the comparison, because I think of skateboarding and it can be so unprofessional, although it's trying to get more professional, it seems like. But compared to the industry with Tony Robbins is in, it's like, seems like it's really professional, and he's a professional, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's been at it for a long time too, huh?
Yeah, it's been 40 years now, which
That's
is
insane.
wild. Like, he started the company I work for when he was 18 years old.
Damn.
And brought it down to San Diego when he was 19. And it's at its core, the company I work for, believe it or not, Tony's a owner and partner in, I think, 33 different companies.
Jesus.
Which is insane. Like, one of them's a virtual reality company that, like, they film and broadcast every, or they're the exclusive partner with the NBA and pro baseball. They have a partnership with Live Nation where they film all the top 40 concerts. They film the Olympics. So it's like, that's just one of 33 companies. Then he's a partner in a pro soccer team called LAFC. It's the LA Football Club, and that's launching in 2018. And it's like super cool partners he has with that. It's like Magic Johnson and Will Ferrell and Mia Hamm and Peter Guber and all these really amazing individuals. So there's that aspect of it. And then the company I work for is called Robbins Research International. And that, at its core, it's a event production company. So we produce about 15 events a year all around the world. And then we sell products, Tony's products, like his audio and video products. And then we have this life coaching services where we have a team of these life coaches that have been personally trained by Tony. And it's kind of like a therapist, but with a different spin on it, like more of helping people get beyond their fears or identifying what's holding people back and what they want to achieve. And it's like these weekly meetups that people have with their life coach. And
so it's like they try to find like the wall that they hit in life and then like help them over it, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, people could use that. When I was younger, I could have used more therapy.
Yeah, but you had your board for that though, so where it took you. So
thank fucking God, dude. Skateboarding for sure. That was the therapy for sure.
I don't know if you remember, we were on a trip together in New Orleans. Do you recall that?
I don't. When? How long ago?
So this was like, man, when did I go down? 2013 for Go Skateboarding Day when we went to the Lower Ninth Ward. I was with Josh Freeberg.
I do. Yes, I do remember. That was insane, dude.
Yeah, so I was with Josh for that. And it was for that nonprofit that he was doing called Just One Board.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, man, when you heard what it was called, you're like, oh, dude, that's me. I'm the epitome of Just One Board. Look how my life has changed from riding a skateboard. It's incredible. And your life story is so inspiring for so many people, whether they skate or not. But I'll never forget that. I was wondering if you remember that or not. Like,
I remember that moment
because New Orleans.
I remember the moment because it was so insane. There was a lot of kids and all that. Like, did we go out into the courtyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we skated around. I think Mendenhall too is there, and that was sick.
I can't recall. It was the world team at that time. I can't remember who was on the team at that time, but I remember, like, you're the leader of the crew for sure. And I can't recall if RP was out there or not. I was with RP last night, actually.
Nice.
Fishing in Oceanside.
Did you guys catch anything?
Yeah, we caught a bunch of fish, but we threw them all back in there, super tiny.
What were you, like, freshwater?
No, in the ocean.
Oh, ocean water. I'm sorry.
The Oceanside Pier.
Oh, okay. Wow, and what did you catch? What kind of fish?
Mackerel.
Nice.
They're super tiny. They're like 6 inches, maybe like 8 inches. It was like we were catching bait or something.
You got to use them. You got to re-fish them. You got to use them as bait and cast them out and get the bigger one.
Right.
My friends fish all the time, and they catch largemouth bass. They catch crappie, pickerel, catfish. Yeah, a lot of my team riders, for all I need, they like to fish, so they go do that and drink some fireballs and fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember that trip to New Orleans. That was insane because I remember seeing so many skateboards at a school. The fact that we were in a school tripped me out too. I was like, this is crazy.
So we, together with, I asked the International Association of Skateboard Companies and Just One Board, we donated throughout that weekend, I think it was like 800 complete skateboards
Amazing.
that we donated to kids. And what was wild was that was like ground zero for Hurricane Katrina, where it like destroyed that whole neighborhood. And I remember the local, like the parents coming up to us and the teachers, they're like, believe it or not, this is like the first time anyone's ever done anything for the kids. And it had been like 6 years since the storm or something. It was like tragic to hear that everyone forgot about these people, but at the same time, to have skateboarding be one of the first to show up and give back, it's like such a powerful statement for skateboarding. And I'd be curious to see how many kids stuck with it. But again, it goes back to that story of just one board. Who knows, maybe coming out of that, you have, you know, the next all-time ripper coming out of New Orleans, you know?
Yeah, it takes, well, I like to look at it this way, because, like, it takes one spark. So if there's one person that's sparked on skateboarding, that passion shines through, and usually they share it with the people around them, and then people usually gravitate towards it. I've seen it a million times, you know? So there's something awesome in that, the power of a skateboard. It's so silly, because it's just wood and wheels, and, you know what I mean? It's a fucking toy, like they say.
Right. That's unreal.
I wanted to ask you about Tomieto. How did that come to be, and what was that like? I'm sure that was a pretty intimidating going in, maybe?
A little bit. You know, you always hear stories about Swank and like him being super gnarly and just having
professionalism. He's very professional.
So, coming off the skate shop, my dad and I shop. It was called Calabera, and I moved from AZ back to Carlsbad, and knowing, like, you know, you got to live in Southern California essentially. If you don't have to these days, but if you want to work in the industry, it's a good place to start.
Around what time is this? What
2011.
Yeah, makes sense.
And at that time, I had been using social media a lot to promote my skate shop, and I also had an all ages music venue that I was that I owned and promoted through MySpace at the time was the big thing, and was able to book bands all over the nation through MySpace, but that's another story. But anyways, I came to San Diego, and there were several companies I dreamed of working for, and saw these holes in or just missed opportunities for the time with social media that brands weren't really going full in at the time. Like they were a little bit, but there just seemed like that they weren't. It was an afterthought, almost like, oh yeah, it's nice to have this Facebook and Twitter, but like, how's that really going to help our business? And then fast forward, 2017, and it's mandatory to have all these things, and it's a core part of everyone's business.
It's because they didn't want to sign up for another MySpace.
Yeah, that too. I guess it left a bad taste in people's mouths and didn't know if it was going to work or not. And to be honest, I had those thoughts as well, but I wanted to position myself in a way where I just wanted to work for someone. So, I mean, I spent a year, believe it or not, just pitching this concept, a proposal I put together that involved like what would be considered influencer marketing or like shop flow kits combined with social media, and then like social media programs for the brands and their pros. And it was just a whole series of no's, no, like no one was budging on that, and no one was going to give me the opportunity to do the concept I was thinking. So at the time, I had been unemployed for almost a year, and I needed a job, and my best friend's dad owned a 7-Eleven. So I started working the graveyard shift at 7-Eleven, and would then pitch my idea or organize meetings with whether it's Vans or DC, America, all of those brands to present my program, and stuff just wasn't clicking. And one of them was Tomieto. I had several meetings with them, and Toy Machine had always been my favorite brand growing up. Welcome to Hell was one of like the most important videos for me, and just always been into Ed's art and photography. And so I had emailed this guy named Kevin Furtado, who's VP of sales there, and he's co-founder of Decline Footwear. Emailed this guy for a year straight. For literally every other month, I would email him like, hey man, is there any openings? Like, and at this point, I was like super desperate. Like, I'm like, I'll pack boxes, I'll do anything, just give me a chance. And I'm like, once I'm in there, I'll be able to, navigate my way and see how I could add value.
Because you'd rather pack boxes for skateboarding than work at the corner store, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, literally almost a year to the date of my first email to Kevin, I emailed him again, and he replies, like, you know what, we might have something for you. So I went down, and the position was that there was all this old product in the warehouse, like all just old stuff from who knows how old, like over 10 years. And it was like just one-offs, you know, like there's one Gareth Stair foundation board, and Gareth wasn't on foundation anymore.
Dude,
like,
he shreds.
yeah, he's the best. Just like, you know, random belts or a backpack, and just literally one-offs of all these little things that the sales reps didn't want to touch, because if they discounted it, they wouldn't be making commission on it, so they weren't going to touch it. They're all about the new stuff, which makes sense. And so my responsibility was to package up all these random goods and find off-price dealers and websites to package and sell to. And so I was in there grinding, doing it. It was only a part-time job, and I was having success with it. But the funny thing is like, I'm seeing like within less than 30 days I'm going to sell all of this stuff, and then I won't have a job because there's nothing left to sell.
You didn't work yourself out of a job.
Exactly. That's exactly what was happening. But what was cool is I started, you know, in the office hanging out with the employees, the sales team, and Kevin and Swank, and they're getting to know me, and I'm slowly dropping little hints and tips about social media and showing them where they can improve. And sure enough, once I sold all that stuff, they're like, hey, why don't you put together a little proposal on where you see yourself and what you could do for Tamietto. And so, lo and behold, I ended up creating my own job at Tamietto, and called myself the new media manager for Tamietto, and did that for about 5 years. So, and I'm still really tight with those guys. I was just hanging out down there yesterday. I'm not, you know, employee of theirs anymore, but I'm, you know, they're like family to me, and I'm still like just a kid at heart, just a fan of, you know, Toy Machine, and Foundation has such an amazing team and history in skateboarding. And so I'm always, you know, wanting to share what I'm learning, and then, you know, to see what those guys are up to and what's going down at the Yetto.
I love that you brought up Gareth Stair. I haven't thought of him in a long time. Was he from New Zealand?
Yeah.
That's right. He would make a great podcast guest, I bet.
Yeah, that dude was him, and I'd love to get him and Corey Duffel in the same room just to hear their stories together. Traveling the world.
God, that would be amazing. That would be fucking amazing. Yeah, Gareth was always a character. Like there's no one like him, from as far as I can tell. I've never seen anybody else.
Original.
Yeah.
Total original. Yeah.
That's crazy. I wanted to ask you, where's that come from? Because where's your work ethic? Is it just from your dad, just always sparking you? Like, because it seems that you have not everyone has it. Not everyone has like a lot of success comes from just not giving up and persisting. And the stories you're telling me, you created your own job or worked your way out of a job. So like, where's that internal fire come from?
I think part of it's the example my dad set for me, for sure, and then just little like tidbits of wisdom that people like. Mentors of mine or people I looked up to over the years. One thing that always stuck with me and I think about all the time is a friend of mine said, you know, Tyler, no one's ever gonna like give you the cool shit to do. No one's ever gonna give you a project. Say, here, like, take this and run with it. It'll be awesome. You have to create the cool shit, as he would say. Like, you gotta take the initiative and kind of just step into the unknown and have faith that it'll work out. And if it doesn't work out, you just kind of pivot and keep you know, analyzing and strategizing of how to make whatever your desire or goal is and reach that outcome. So I think, partly my dad, and then a lot of it too is just skateboarding in general. I think there's so many unseen benefits that get wired through our entire body riding a skateboard all the time, whether it's falling down and picking yourself up again, the aspect of actually not having a coach and someone telling you what to do. And so just having that kind of DIY mentality of like, if I want to do this, I got to do it myself. Like, no one's going to hold my hand. So I think that's part of it. And then like, just persistence and like having faith that it'll work out. Because I mean, trust me, I was working at 7-Eleven at 30 years old, and like was an extreme low point for me. You know, it's like I can laugh at it now, but it was super depressing. Like, and at the same time, I was getting sober. I should back up. That's another factor that really helped me was quitting drinking.
Solid life choice.
That I just. It just helped me be more productive, I think, is putting the bottle down and quit drinking.
What'd you like to drink?
Pardon?
What was your poison?
Oh my gosh. Everything over the years, I was definitely like, unfortunately, it's sad to say, but I'd have a Old English 40 literally every single day, and then probably back it up with the second one, and then I'd hit the bar. That was like my primer. All sorts of crap, you know, E&J brandy for some reason, and just random drinks, you know.
Well, what was the catalyst to make you realize it wasn't going well that way?
Just like, you know, it's funny. I never went to AA full time, but I was in New York City one time. And my buddy was, he got sober and he became a lawyer in New York, which is like, I can't even imagine the workload of that and like how hard you gotta study and work to become a lawyer in New York City. But anyways, he got sober and he took me to his AA meeting that was, they called it the Coke and Hooker Ward. Because it was on the Upper East Side, and it's like you have all these extremely wealthy dudes that are, you know, high-powered attorneys or Wall Street traders and whatnot, and they're all making tons of money, and they just have crazy habits of drinking, doing blow, and buying hookers. So
there's a lot of pressure up there. That's why that lifestyle, a lot of pressure. You got to relieve it somehow. I imagine.
Totally. And so I went from like the entertainment value of like to run with it, but I don't know if you've ever been to an AA meeting, but it's mostly like a storytelling format where they have a person speak every time. It's a new speaker, and they're an AM themselves. And this one guy, he was telling his story, and my story was like identical to his in terms of the habits.
Coke and hookers.
No. That was not my habit. Mine was like the daily 40, having a couple 40s and then go hit the bar.
Yeah, you were like vacation land, drinking all day, not working, just fucking lounging.
Yeah, and plus at that time I had just come up with the skate shop, and it's like that's the daily routine. It's like shop life, you know, and drinking and barbecuing and that whole deal. And the one thing that stuck with me is like he thought his behavior was so normal, and that he it's funny I'm sharing this, but he would start his day off by vomiting every single morning.
Nice.
And I did the same exact thing.
Whoa.
That's how I started my day, was like...
You feel better after? Is that why?
Yeah, I think it was just like getting last night out of me or something, because I would never... Like, I'd drink to no end and like just keep going and then fall asleep, but I'd never vomit from drinking too much. Like I did as a kid, you know, drinking in high school and stuff, but as an adult, I started my morning off doing that, and I just thought it was completely normal. Like, that's how I functioned. Like, that's how I started my day. And so that hit me like, well, that is not normal at all. That's probably not real healthy either. Like, just being dumb, you know, your mid-20s, not really thinking of stuff like that. At least I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so that stuck with me. And then the fact that, like, you know, I was unemployed, and just kind of like having these series of bad moments happening where I was just like acting like an idiot when I drink too much, or I was never a violent person or anything, but just making poor choices or being hungover the next day and not just wasting the entire day away. And when you're slowly becoming an adult, you're reaching your 30s and you're unemployed, you don't have much to show except you can drink a ton of alcohol. That's like all you're good at.
Yeah.
It's like started to reevaluate what I was doing. So yeah, that was a big shift. And then actually finding Jesus Christ and going to church is what helped me a lot. Probably the most was just being around a group of people, RP Best included, where just surrounding myself with people that wanted to make the same lifestyle choices that I was trying to achieve. in terms of, not drinking and whatnot.
Yeah, it's funny because our efforts become our, like, the amount of effort we put in becomes our pattern almost, If you just don't do anything, then you get nothing, you just sit there. But if you put a lot of effort in, you can keep going. So you got to build up good habits, daily habits. It's hard. Because sometimes you overwork and you need relaxation, the opposite, you know what I mean? Like, so to find balance in that is a good life hammer for sure.
Totally. It's really hard to achieve, and something that I'm always thinking about now that I have, a wife with 2 kids, and like trying to find that space between, grinding real hard and trying to do the best I can possibly do for my job, but also like remembering like, hey, I got to be the best father too, and how do you balance those two? And back to your point of like, focusing, Tony, I'm always having these Tony quotes go through my head because I run his social media account, so I'm always tweeting stuff. But a quote that always sticks with me is, where focus goes, energy flows. And so whatever you're putting your focus into, you'll constantly kind of like be filling up that gas tank with the right energy and keep making headway towards what you want to achieve.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. I just recently moved all my skateboard stuff into my garage. I have like a full warehouse, and it's just this for that same principle. I was like, it'll have my attention. I'll be around it. I'll be inspired. I'll see it more. It'll make me do more stuff, and and it does. I just hang out in this room all the time because I'm just awesome. It's everywhere in front of me, and it's like
it's feeding you.
Yeah, it's a good motivator, good reminder. We need those in life.
Oh yeah, you got to set yourself up with those things, like those visual cues, like for yourself, or whether it's watching a YouTube video that will get you sparked, or listening to audio. It's like here's another Tonyism, but he said repetition is the mother of all skills. Like you have to continually build upon what you're doing, and you can't get lax or lazy. That the minute you get comfortable, it can slip away, and you always have to. In a way, it sounds kind of whack, but you got to one-up yourself a lot.
Yeah, which makes sense because life is progression, right? Like,
even
you could continue to progress even when you're 100. Your mind can keep going. Usually, if you're healthy and you can find ways to keep your health, and you're a bit lucky, we could see what we could aspire to be. As individuals, like that's important. That takes everyday practice because it's easy to slip into madness.
Oh my gosh, so easy.
Repetition can help you and it can hurt you because some people settle for the same thing over and over again just out of like having bad habits, and then that repetition imprisons them. I've seen that as well.
Yeah.
But
getting stuck in patterns for sure.
Yeah, because then it gets scary to leave that habit or that pattern up behind, and move past it, transcend.
Yeah, it's those habits are comforting,
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it's like, I always think about the growing pains too in life because they're called pains because it's not easy. It's like you really have to like kick yourself in the face sometimes and your ego and realize that you could be better and just find different areas. That's why I like when I meet fellow people with the internal fire. They just want to keep going and figure it out. And like we were saying earlier about readjusting, like we do with skating. You try a trick and you start adjusting until you figure out what works, and then that becomes your style and you forge it and you can master it. The same in life, like if you don't really take a loss, you just learn from it and then you adjust and those inches add up, and then I always preach to people too a lot about picking up change because I'm like, we go to fucking war over this useless shit. Like it means nothing if we don't pick it up. Like I swear, I go to like the projects a lot of times and I see pennies on the ground and it's like makes me mad because I'm like, I know when I needed pennies in my life before, so like it's insane. Like yeah. It's cool that you're surrounded. Awesome. It's cool that you're surrounded by all those people, and it seems like having Tony around is pretty sick because he probably has a lot of advice and wisdom.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah, it seems like it helped keep you in on the right path. It's easy. It's a lot easier, I imagine, to be really successful if you have a lot of people trying together. That's something that I love is when people try, because then if you keep trying. You'll nail it sometimes, like
totally. It's super infectious, just like skateboarding. When someone's trying to push themselves, it kind of sparks everyone else, and they're like, "Oh, I want what he's getting. Like, I want to try that. Like, I'm gonna try to, go for it because so and so I just saw something on John Cardiel of like how he was the ultimate dude of getting everyone sparked, and like everyone's like, oh, I want what that guy has right now. Like, I'm gonna try it because John's getting after it right now. Maybe it'll like rub off on me a little bit, you know?
Yeah, you like catch his hype and like go in.
Exactly. Yeah, so you can take that same approach to the workspace or whatever you do in life, and it's really key to surround yourself with people that are gonna want to put the work in and try as well, and then you can learn together and figure it out, you know?
Yeah, they should teach this stuff in schools.
Yeah, you think.
Did you, forgive me, did you say you went off to college? Did you do college?
I sort of. I didn't get a 4-year degree. I got an associate's degree, and then, believe it or not, I got a certificate in filmmaking. And then I have also from UCSD Extension, I got later in life when I was working at Tamieto, actually, in my 30s, I got a certificate in digital marketing.
Rad. That's sick.
So yeah, no official 4-year degree, which in the back of my mind, I honestly always regret, but I don't think about it too much because you just got to keep pushing. And then you look at individuals like my boss, Tony Robbins. He only graduated high school, and that dude's nearly a billionaire or so.
Yeah.
you can, like, just the same theme as skateboarding. Like, it's what you put in and what you're going to get out of it. Just because you have a 4-year degree doesn't guarantee you any sort of success or anything.
Yeah, 100%. Because that wouldn't be fair if everyone had to put themselves in debt to get education.
Yeah.
If that was the only way, like, we already seen the end of that trail. Like, god damn it. Do you ever, just because I'm thinking about you have 2 kids and like all this stuff, do you stress about fucking politics at all? Or are you anti politics?
Dude, I was never thought about it until Trump was elected, and now I'm like addicted to like hearing all the drama.
Oh, it's amazing stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're living in this movie. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely take sides with some things. I definitely right in the middle. I think I'm pretty, conservative on some issues, and then super liberal on others. Yeah, I don't know. Why? How about you?
Oh man, I mean, I've never really been political because I don't know. I grew up in the projects. You know what I mean? Like, politics wasn't really helping us because we're in the projects. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care who's in power right now. Like let's worry about some food and shelter and safety. Like the necessities. So like, I always kind of had that mentality where I'd look at politics and I'm like, they're fighting over luxuries. Like resources that we don't have access to.
Yeah.
And
there's no benefit for you.
Yeah, they got to put some of that resources into social welfare and humanities and stuff like that, like, so I never really became real political because, like, I couldn't see how it correlated. But as I get older, I guess, I look at it, but I still think it's kind of trivial. It's a bunch of people that own resources, and a lot of them, or weapons or whatever, and that's what politics is they're arguing with each other. Yep. While the rest of us are just kind of like, are at the whims of whatever they do, like, which is terrible. Yeah, which is terrifying.
Yeah, especially this day and age. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you can go down. I find myself going down the rabbit hole of like all the crazy stuff Trump is doing, and I'm like, man, like, is this really benefiting me in any ways? But I guess it's always good to be more informed. But it's just it's tough right now, and we only have so much time on this earth, so it's like, unless I'm really going to step up and move into the political arena, which I do not see myself doing, I don't know if it's really worth, dedicating a lot of time and resources to watching or like, reading about politics and whatnot.
Yeah, well,
which probably sounds uneducated, but at the same time, like you said, it's like, what? I don't know. It's just a tough spot to be in.
Well, you'll become what you consume. If you watch politics all the time and shit, you'll be a politician. You'll go into the show and you'll compete and it's like being a skateboarder or whatever. They're literally career politicians. It's called that. It's their career, So like,
right.
And like the devil's in the details, like no human has ever made a mistake or compromised their beliefs ever for fame and fortune, like ever. That's never happened. That's what it seems, Like, I'm not. And I'm not religious, so I thought that was sick that you said religion helped you. I kind of wanted to go back to that. How so? Like, you came in and you're surrounded by good people, and
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I think it was a big shift for me. You know, one, my lifestyle didn't align with. I'm LDS. I'm Mormon, so traditional Mormon lifestyle is, you know, you're not drinking or doing drugs and a whole list of other things. A lot of things appealed to me about the church. I think the first thing that really resonated with me was that you have this giant church organization and no one's being paid. It's all volunteer. And that was one thing. I didn't grow up religious or spiritual or anything like that. And because I kind of always had a bad taste with religion, and, you know, like just seeing, like, living next door to a pastor of a church where his full-time job is to preach the gospel, and he lives in a 2-story house and drives a Mercedes. That doesn't seem very godlike. So
it's tough.
I just, and you know, religion causes a lot of you know, turmoil in the world and a lot of violence, and there's a lot of, you know, disagreement over things, and it just can be a bad thing for people overall, and it can be a really wonderful thing for people. But what shifted for me, I think, is seeing that service aspect. I think that's what appeals to me the most these days is giving service and doing help for others, whether it's, you know, going to an elderly woman's house and helping her with yard work, or you know, giving money when you can, or any level of, you know, donating food or old clothes or whatever it is, of trying to help or mentor a youth, something like that, where I think those were some of the things that stuck out. And then just being around people that were living that true lifestyle, because I didn't think that was even possible. Like, when I met my wife, I could not fathom the fact that she's never drank or smoked in her entire life. Like, I thought she was lying to me. I was like, that's BS. Like, there's no way.
Dude, I've had tons of moments, because I'm, like, where I grew up, there was a lot of shit that was acceptable, you know? Like, and then I met people that were, like, wholesome and had never been introduced to stuff at a young age, like that type of corruption. It's like, I believe I have many awkward situations where I think people are bullshitting.
Yeah, like, it just doesn't, I guess you're a product of your environment. Like, being in skateboarding, you know, you're exposed to a lot of stuff at a young age where you can take it or leave it. I think a lot of us take it, but an interesting thread I'm seeing is, perfect example would be like the Baker team, you know, like watching Baker 2G and 3, like, it's all about raging and partying and drinking and smoking, all these things, and then you fast forward 10 years later and almost the entire team's sober now, and it's like, that's just based off what they, you know, what they were getting from life, is they wanted to have more longevity in their careers and have a bigger impact. So I think, you know, putting the bottle down for a lot of folks helped them stick around. You know, I couldn't imagine, like, skateboarding would suck if Andrew Reynolds didn't film another part after Baker 2G, you know? But
yeah, that'd be a loss for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it did, man. The reason why I was asking about religion too was that it was very impactful on me at a young age, and I never really became religious, but I went to Royal Rangers, which was like a Boy Scout church group, and my dad always took me to churches, and like just the positivity and the meeting the people, just seeing people that were on like good behavior and like seemed normal and like were helpful and caring was like good for me, you know. And I was like, I wonder where that comes from, you know. And then then I look into the Bible, and there's a lot of contradictions, like you were saying, and then like you don't know up from down. It reminds me of politics, to be honest. Like, you don't know truth or what's false. So after a while, it just becomes poisonous for us, and we have to move past it, I think, or redefine it or something. Or don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take what's good, but somehow let go of all the stupid shit. Like, but it did have a big impact on me. Even though I didn't become religious, I still took a lot of good things from it, you know? Like, and I like when people can find that. And because usually if you join a church, you have to want to like seek it, and you have to find benefit from it, right? I imagine. Shouldn't be forced on you, right?
Oh, that was what was funny for me. It's like, I was introduced to the church through my girlfriend's father. And so I was dating who now is my wife. She lived in New York City. I lived in Carlsbad. And her dad called me to lunch one day and started just getting feedback from me on where my thoughts and where my head was at, because, he knew his daughter really liked me and that it could progress into something. He's like, I just want to let you know where we're coming from, what our values are, and just to give you exposure to it and see what you think. And so he would slowly invite me to stuff, and it wasn't, I don't know, it definitely wasn't forced upon me. But then I had this dilemma where I'm like, okay, I'm going down this path. I really love this girl, but if I get baptized in this church and become a member just for a girl, that's completely unfair to the girl, but super disrespectful for the church too. That's not the least Christ-like thing ever.
Well, you'd be living a lie. You'd be living a lie. You'd have to go to church all the time, and you'd be like, I just did it for the chick, and
Well, and then it would never last. There'd be no longevity in there. I would have given up and been like, oh, I'm gonna go skate or go travel on Sunday or do something, So, but similar to a lot of things in life, I started putting work into it and praying a lot and listening to discussions and reading scriptures and just pondering, literally thinking about it over and over. It's like, is this the right path? And I literally, what's funny is I was living in a house with my best friend who played for the Packers, and the Packers won the Super Bowl that year.
Sick.
And so, needless to say, the house I was living in was just pure debauchery. You have a Super Bowl champion where it's the off season and everyone's raging.
Cocaine and hookers. No, I'm just kidding.
So I didn't say it, you did. But it was nuts, and I'm living amongst it, and while at the same time I'm unemployed and just have these dreams, but it's so easy to get caught up in the party and having a good time, but it was slowly turning into Groundhog Day and just same crap over and over again, same hangover over and over again. And so I found myself literally at these crossroads of do I stay loyal to my friends and my lifestyle that I've known and done, and that pattern, being stuck in that pattern and being comfortable and this is what's, what I know, and am I really unhappy, or am I just telling myself unhappy? And then, or do I go down this path where was super scary for me? One, completely changing my lifestyle, but two, pursuing something that's completely foreign to me and being surrounded by people that I'm normally not surrounded by and would feel uncomfortable around, thinking they're judging me for how I've grown up and the choices that I made. But that was just all me in my head, and come to find out, I chose the latter path of let's do this and figure out if this is the right thing. And thankfully I had a testimony from God that this was the right thing to do. It's a super trippy story, but I feel like I have to share it to validate why I made this choice. And so within the Mormon church, I'm sure you've seen the missionaries of those guys and the white shirts with the black ties and the name badges, and they go around proselytizing. On bikes, right, usually? Exactly. Yeah. And so they lived half a block away from me in the Super Bowl house. So nice. They'd show up at my door. I'm just opening the door a little crack, trust me guys, you don't want to come in here. You'll evaporate. But I started hanging out with them and just kind of listening to what they're saying, but still just always on the fence. I was always on the fence. I couldn't commit, and because I didn't know. It just wasn't. I didn't know if it was the right move for me to do, and I kept saying, "Are you just doing this for the girl? What's your deal?" And so I'm sitting in a discussion with two missionaries, and my girlfriend is in New York, but I'm at her parents' house with her brother and her mother. And we finished the talk, and after every discussion, the missionary would ask you, do you want to be baptized in this church? And I'd say no a million times. I was just no, man, it's not for me. And this one time, Greg, my wife's brother, looked at me and was like, Tyler, like, do you think you have a fear of this? Like, are you afraid to make this choice? And I never thought of it in that context. And I was like, yeah, maybe I am kind of afraid. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe. And right when I acknowledged that, I swear to you, I had the craziest feeling ever of like an adrenaline rush times a million, where I had this gnarly surge through my body of like this crazy energy was pulsating through me. I started crying profusely and I was paralyzed, like I couldn't even move. And it was just the most euphoric feeling I've ever felt in my life. And later on learned that was the spirit telling me like, yeah, you're getting it. Like, this is it. This is for you. And everyone in that room, afterwards they told me like, I've never felt the spirit so strong in a room in my entire life. But I'm sitting there with this feeling that seemed like minutes. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was just like a fire inside of me. And the missionary leaned over. He's like, will you be baptized in this church? And I was like, yeah. Like, what? Like, that was insane. I couldn't believe. Yeah. And I couldn't deny that. You know, I think had I denied that, I don't even want to know where I'd end up. But like, and it wasn't all roses afterwards. You know, when I got baptized, I then started working for 7-Eleven, and it was a long road to success, or, you know, what I feel is success in terms of like having a wife and kids and a steady job and being able to do something I'm proud of and being involved in a community where I'm surrounded by people I've looked up to my entire life. So
just having appreciation for life is like the success, because like not everybody graduates to that level, you know, like that's a height. That's a height in the world people can hit, you know.
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I'm super thankful that I was able to experience that. I can't even believe I guess I'm having my missionary moment right now. I've never really told that story in a public setting, but
well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, because
cool,
like
thanks,
it would suck. It would suck if people were religious and felt like they couldn't talk about it. You know, like, because it seems like it impacts a lot of people's lives. So
yeah, in some parts of the world they can't talk about that. So yeah, I guess it's nice to have the freedom to talk about skateboarding and God.
I've had some of those moments in life that you described about having that surge and stuff, but it was at my lowest. It's like when life hit me at the lowest, I've had those moments of, like you said, a fire in you and stuff, and like I didn't let it drag me down, but I try to use it, you know, like when things get super hard and you have that surge and that like face of change and you have to like move forward or make a decision mentally, am I going to keep going this way, like or you just have to have acceptance to understand, like, you know. So I've had those at my lowest, which is weird. The opposite.
That's awesome. Yeah, Tony calls it it's the difference between having shoulds and musts.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, you should do something, but you never do it. And when you do it is when it becomes a must. And when you make that shift in your head and everything becomes a must, that the will finds a way and you can achieve what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Or what your outcome is desired to be.
Yeah, I like that. That was another reason I called my brand All I Need, was because I know that we must take care of our needs as individuals. You know, if we each can cover our own needs and find a way to do that so we can be stable, then we'll be great together. You know what I mean? But it's an individual journey, because we can only experience our own lives. We can feel other people's lives and stuff, but really we can only affect our own lives. And you know, so if you cover your needs and you're not part of the problem, then that's one less problem. You know, like. Seems like a thing we're working towards.
A perfect analogy of that is when you take a flight and the flight attendant, when they go through the emergency thing, they tell you to put on the air mask. If the plane goes down and those air masks deploy first, you're supposed to put it on yourself first before you put it on your kids, because you have to be able to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone else.
Yeah, and that's
seems
a perfect,
kind of backwards, but it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. That's genius. Mine also come from my mom. Like, I saw all the mistakes my mom was going through, and it happened from something bad happened to her as a child, and it slowly drifted, and she became an adult and couldn't get past her issues and dealt with drugs and a lot of gnarliness. And she had 5 kids with 3 different men, and like I was a product of that situation I was birthed into. So I watched my mom make a shit ton of mistakes throughout her life and dig herself deeper and deeper. Like, I imagine she came to the same crossroads I did and let it drag her down. But she had different hardships, so I can't even fault her, you know? But my whole process growing up was, like, I just wanted to get her to realize that she needed to, like, worry about herself and fix herself, you know? Everything was happening to her. I was like, it's happening to you because you're allowing it to and you're falling apart. So I was trying to show her the value of, like, life in her life, especially, you know? So, like, a lot of that's how I had to react with the world, was that I was like, oh, God, I'm lost from the beginning, you know? So, but it's helped me.
That as an example, you know, look where it's taking you, you know, it's incredible.
It's helped me have an understanding of life that brings me joy right now, so I cannot complain at all.
That's rad, man. I love that.
Yeah, dude, let me just make sure we got everything I wrote down. Oh, I wanted to ask you about 2 things. I'm glad I checked this. 2 was with Tomieto. Was it ever hard getting, like, did you ever have to speak to the guys on the team and, like, try to get them into social media? Because, like, around that time, it was a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah. It still is. I won't name names, but and I get it, they just hate it. It's like, there's that level of self-promotion where it's like they don't want to be hyping themselves up, but at the same time, it's just finding that happy medium of, like, you know, giving the fans what they want, you know, giving them a sneak peek behind the curtain and that, and then showing support for the brands that are sponsoring you. But just, I think one story I remember, I'll never forget this because I felt dumb doing it, but I was like, I got to grow these accounts. So I started Toy Machine Instagram, I started Pig Wheels Instagram, and I started Foundations Instagram.
Nice.
And so that's from ground zero. And I'll never forget, I had literally a zillion different job responsibilities at Tomieto. It was a very small company, and, like, you find yourself, like, yeah, I'm the social media manager and I'm updating the website, but I'm also, like, when it's crunch time, I'm loading boxes up, you know, and getting product out the door. I also worked really closely with Mike Sinclair, who's the team manager for all those brands.
Fuck yeah, Mike's the man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, just a side note, working for Mike Sinclair is one of the greatest things ever. I've learned so much from that dude, and just a great inspiration. And it should be noted that part of my work ethic comes from Mike, seeing how hard that dude grinded and like how many jobs he would juggle so he could work in an industry that he loved, you know, and just an amazing hard worker and really talented. But anyways, I would pack boxes for the team dudes and send them what they needed as well. And at the time, we had this new flow kid named Jeremy Liabres, who no one knew who he was, and sending him his first package. And I remember writing a handwritten note in there like, hey man, if you could take a photo of this and tag Pig Wheels and be like, you know, thanks for the box, or just give a shout out to Pig Wheels, because we had like 1,000 followers at the time or something. It was brand new. And I'm like, dude, this is so whack, but I got to grow these accounts, and, like, you know, it's like, just got to ask, you know, if you aren't going to hit a home run unless you swing the bat. So I'm like, I got to, you know, ask him. So anyways, he did the photo, and then all of a sudden, all his buddies just started capping on him in the comments, like, that's so whack. And I forget what he said. This is, like, back in 2012. So I can't remember how far back that was, but I just remember it was like, you know, I know it seemed like for some dudes it's a chore, and it's like, oh, I gotta, like, do this. And then some people, they do it so amazingly, and they do an amazing job at, like, the world of social media, you know, and give the fans what they want to see and have real passion about what they're sharing. Like someone like Kelly Hart, you know, he hypes S footwear like no other, but you can see his passion for it and his love for it, so it comes off the right way. You know, it doesn't seem forced or that he's, like, trying to push some agenda. He's just genuinely really stoked on the brand and what they're doing over there. So, yeah, there was times when it was, I think just it's funny. With social media has always been a struggle for me in getting people to adopt it. Back in the day, my argument was that you needed social media accounts for your business. A lot of businesses didn't understand that, whether it's skateboarding or a dentist office or a restaurant, something like that. Now, I don't need to make that argument anymore. Everyone understands the value of having social media. But now my new argument is a ton of different things of like, everyone assumes social media is this marketing channel, and granted, yes, it is a marketing channel, but it's also a customer service channel. And like, there's an element to social media where you have all your fans, the people who are buying your products or a fan of your product, and they're leaving comments about what they think, whether it's positive or negative. And so many brands just let that go into the void and don't acknowledge it, which is a huge mistake, because it's like you're just ignoring these people. It's a public platform. So now it's like I'm trying to make the point that like social media, yeah, it's marketing, but it's also a customer service channel, and that needs to be addressed for, you know, a lot of companies, and start hiring customer service specialists in social media, which sounds kind of boring, but at the same time, it's like it's a necessary aspect of the industry.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I've tried to tell people about social media, you know, and get some resistance. I actually talked Brandon Westgate into it. Thank God, right?
Oh, right.
Everyone out there should
have an Instagram forever.
Everyone out there owes me a fucking favor. Owes me a beer.
Oh, you started his IG with him?
Dude, I argued with that kid for months on end, because he's like, it's so much work, like, why am I doing it? I would argue about the value of it. I was like, dude, it's so powerful, you could help our skate scene, all this stuff, and that's how I got there, and now he kills it, you know, but like, it was like so much work. But that's what I was asking. And then also, I'm a brand manager for World Industries, which is crazy to think,
Awesome.
I deal with trolls because people are so passionate about World Industries and Steve Rocco and the legacy of World, you know, and it's chaos. The legacy is chaos. Like some of the greatest skaters and some of the craziest business tactics and moves, and so like I have to brunt that. I'm customer service rep a lot of times, and for the most part, people like. My job's easy because people post so much sick World content, that stuff they had and collected, and the reasons why they liked World, and so I do a lot of reposting. But dude, I get some trolls that are so angry that we're trying to rebuild it, and they're just like want to burn it down, and I'm like, I don't know how to respond, but be honest and tactful, and like after a while, it's like it's ridiculous. I'm like, how is this person putting so much energy into destroying instead of just building up something of their own to compete or to do it however they want, you know, like your own expression. But it's the platform. Social media is very powerful. It's whatever you want it to be. It could be our own prisons, or it could be a great tool to help a lot of people, or to help yourself, you know, like crazy. It's cool that you've managed to do that on a fucking really, really high level.
Thank you.
It's cool, man.
One thing you can remember, I forget the guy who wrote it. Oh, Jay Bear. He wrote a book called Hug Your Haters.
Yeah.
And with regards to the trolls on social, and it's like he has a nice sequence involved of like, I think acknowledging them twice, and then if it keeps going, just let them go on and don't say anything. But like, first acknowledge them and say whatever, you know, needs to be said, or, you know, either however that comment, there's a million different scenarios, and then if they reply back, it's either you reply back once or you don't, and just let it, at least it's the public records there that you acknowledge this person and you try to meet their needs, and then if they're going to be unreasonable, they're going to be unreasonable, or you can just pull Ed Templeton and block them instantly.
This is my dilemma, because I get so much positive feedback for All I Need and for World, but World especially is like there's just one or two people occasionally, and they usually go away, and I hate deleting anyone's comments because I'm down for expression and whatever, so I try not to do that. But I agree. At least I try my way of approaching it is to respond back to them and let them know like if they're wrong, because a lot of times they're saying shit they don't understand, you know, so it's like I gotta at least clear the water, and then at least there's a trail, you know, and then if the person, it got to the point where he's just unreasonable and you can see the trail of him just still trying to take jabs over nothing, and you're just like, it's ridiculous. But it's like a lot of time in relationships with people just because they hate something and are bored, and or it's like entertainment to them, you know, it's like
it's super confusing. I don't understand people's train of thought of how they can keep that going and just hate. And
Well, I've been there.
Just,
I've been there. It's like
it's weird.
when I was growing up, I had shitty communication and person-to-person reaction. So then, like when the internet comes, and now you have shitty communication in real life, and then you try on the internet, it's even more disconnected. So, like I've kind of been there for sure. Sick. I think we covered everything, man. Is there anything you want to like plug, like any websites or social media sites or anything that you'd like to share with anyone that might be of any value?
Nothing really. I just like to say, kind of bring it back to the skateboarding advocacy part. That, if anyone's listening, wondering how they can make a difference in their skate scene, whether they're a shop owner or just a local skater, believe it or not, I've had the most success working with Parks and Recs departments. I think over the years, when I've seen, skateboarding becoming illegal in some towns or wherever it might be, or getting a park built, it seems that the trend is to mass all the troops, get all the skaters, and storm City Hall and go into a City Hall meeting and let the voices be heard, which is a worthy tactic and should be done. But I think the most headway and the easiest way to get things done and move in a nice fashion is to just meet the people at Parks and Recs, because they have a ton of power and they're easily forgotten about, and people forget that they're the difference makers, and that they have, the power of the pen and the power of the purse, and have budget to build stuff. And if they have, a person who's easy to talk to and can provide a point of view of why it's important, why skaters need it, I think you'll get a lot done. So I just encourage anyone listening that they're looking to improve their skate scene or get a spot or a park built, to just visit your Parks and Recs department and start a conversation and see where it can go. And then for anything else, if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's where I'm most busy and happy to say hello to you. It's just at Tyler Culbertson. And then if you're looking for, if you find yourself in a funk and looking for your next move, what to do, and want some answers, some questions answered, just hit up Tony Robbins and YouTube his name, or search his name on YouTube and listens to his talks. It's funny for me that I used to listen to that guy a lot growing up and getting a ton of value, and now, lo and behold, I work for him and communicate with him on a regular basis, which I still pinch myself that I even talk to this guy, but let alone collaborate and work with him. So if you're looking for that extra edge, I think people and your listeners can get a ton of value of listening to Tony.
Does he have a YouTube channel, I'm assuming?
Yeah. And a ton of his stuff gets ripped, and they just have, his a lot of pirated versions of his products and stuff out there. And he keeps it up because he's like, look, my number one mission is to reach people and empower their lives, and if that's the way it can get done and have the initial spark, then let it be. So yeah, just Google Tony Robbins in YouTube, and there's hours and hours of content, and I think it can definitely shift your thinking and put you moving in the right direction on what you want to achieve.
Fuck yeah. Well, thanks, Tyler. This has been a pleasure.
Hell yeah. Thanks so much, Anthony. I really appreciate you having me on your show, and fan of what you do, and just really appreciate everything you do for skateboarding. It's incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
1 second.
Last thing before we get out of here, I'd just like to thank everybody out there that supports this show, whether that be, liking something, sharing one of the podcasts, all the comments, the feedback, the suggestions, all the people that cop something from allineedskate.com. The show has been amazing. I've learned, I've grown a lot, and I've met a lot of fucking cool people. And I'm really hyped that we have this platform for skateboarding, and I hope to keep growing this and doing really cool stuff with it. So again, thank you guys. Till next time.